James, Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life here with another episode of The Nasties, and this time round we're covering the 1981 slasher horror that is The Burning. One of the prosecuted video nasties, amazingly, was later released in 1992 with 19 seconds cut, but eventually re-released in 2001, completely uncut. It was at the centre of, basically, the story surrounding this is controversy in the early 1980s when the uncut version of the film was released on videotape at a British video label, Thorn EMI. But the company was supposed to have released a trimmed version that had been passed by the BBFC, the British Board of Film Classifications. Because of that, the tapes were then impounded under the Obscene Publications Act, and, of course, The Burning was added to the 72 films of the Video Nasty list. Two major sequences were the contention, which is, if you know the movie, Cropsy's mass murder spree that occurs on the raft. That was one that was edited and cut down. Yeah. And the sight of a pair of scissors piercing a woman's flesh in a post-title sequence. Vipco released a truncate version in the early 90s, but missed about 30 seconds worth of the gore. But obviously by 2001, didn't matter. It's completely uncut. You can find it uncut now. Watch it all its glory. There's your Blu-ray DVD. Of course, comes with lots of special edition content. This is like many of the Arrow releases. That comes in as a double. So you get like the Blu-ray and the DVD. I never get that. Like, I don't get that, but a lot of them are this.
Or they have them lying around. Just flung them in.
Maybe. So the special edition includes high definition Blu-ray and the standard definition DVD presentations. Original mono audio, uncompressed PCM on a Blu-ray, whatever the hell that means.
Someone would appreciate that.
Yeah, optional English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing. That's not a special edition. That's just that's just a thing you do.
Yeah.
Audio commentary with director Tony Maylam and critic Alan Jones. Audio commentary with the stars Shelley Bruce and Bonnie Dorowski. They couldn't obviously get some of the bigger names to do this after because basically this film has a lot of young people who would go on to be quite stars. Yeah. Let's be honest, actual stars. Brand new audio commentary with Hysteria continues. Blood and Fire Memories, a look at the creation of the film's makeup effects with FX artist Tom Savini. Should we know Tom Savini does the makeup in this and effects? Slash and Cut, an interview with the editor Jack Shoulder. Crosby Speaks, an interview with the actor Lou David, who obviously played Crosby. Summer Camp Nightmare, an interview with the actress Leah Ayres. Synthly the Best, a brand new interview with the composer Rick Wakeman. Yes, that Rick Wakeman does the music. Rick Wakeman of Yes does the music for this movie. Behind the scenes footage, theatrical trailer, image galleries, and a reversible sleeve featuring original and new artwork by Justin Erickson. So as always, let's have a little look at it. So new artwork is obviously that. Original is that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like that. Yeah.
So The Burning is a slasher horror. And first things first, what did you think of it?
I enjoyed it. Yeah. It was nice seeing films a bit more money thrown at it. I know that doesn't always make a good film, but this one, after what we've seen, sometimes you just need a little bit more cash, a little bit more of a sleeker look to it to enjoy it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. The quality of this, at least of this version, the Blu-ray version, is excellent. It's very clear. It's very pretty to look at. Don't get me wrong. It looks and feels like an 80s movie particularly because of plot points, but its sharpness, the vision. It's just a nice looking movie. Even the dark scenes aren't like dark in an annoying sense. Everything's well lit. Everything's well paced. I think it's one of the more solid ones out of it. I think like if I'd seen it in say 1981, which would have been impossible because I wasn't born. But had I seen it back in the day, I'd have probably appreciated it more than now. Now, it's filled with cliches. Yeah. And it's amazing how many modern films would rip this movie off in some way or another. Like, for me, like one of the ones that I kept referencing was, I was like, oh, it's I Know What You Did Last Summer. Kind of, like elements of that, where, and stuff like that. Yeah. It follows a lot of slasher tropes, we've got teenagers having sex and getting off in violent ways. You get a twist at the end that probably wasn't needed, but we'll get to that. But overall, I thought it was a good movie.
I think certain plot points made sense as well.
Yeah,
So it made sense. Certain things. Sometimes you watch a film and go, well, no, you just do this, and they go, oh, okay, they actually do this. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think most of it. There are some, but they're,
stupid, but yeah, I appreciate sometimes things making more sense than others.
Yeah. So it was directed by Tony Malem, stars Brian Matthews, Brian Backer, Leah Ayres and Lou David, the main cast, but there are some important ones, in the sort of supporting cast.
Yeah.
This is apparently based on the New York urban legend of the Cropsey Maniac. I know nothing about that legend.
Campsite story.
Presumably.
Yeah.
Screenplay written by Bob Weinstein and Peter Lawrence, with a story conceived by, get this, Harvey Weinstein, Malem and Brad Gray. It's the debut of these are the people who wanted to big things. Jason Alexander, who obviously would go on to be best known for Seinfeld. Seinfeld, yeah.
I didn't realise when I looked at it. I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's him.
Fisher Stevens and Holly Hunter as well. Two massive names. But of course, we've already mentioned Rick Wakeman of the rock band Yes. It's one of these that again was unsuccessful at the time, but has since garnered a cult following. I can see why. I think, as we already praised certain elements, other things like the effects. Yeah. I think the effects are excellent. It's probably the best thing about it. Other than the characters, which I do say I liked a lot of the characters, the effects are easily the most impressive thing about this. Savini kicked ass in this.
It's nice when you watch this, when you see the credits come up, you're like, Tom Savini, okay, yeah. You're really kind of like aware that it's going to be some good...
Yeah, you're going to see some quality, in that sense. So the plot, it's based at camps, basically, summer camp, but two different ones. The first one being Camp Blackfoot, where we're introduced to a group of young boys, teenage boys, who are planning a prank, basically. Didn't like this opening. No? Could barely hear what they were saying a lot of the time.
Yeah, like, if you're going to whisper, make sure you can hear a bit more of the dialogue.
Yeah, and it goes on for quite a while as well. And you know nothing who these characters are. And weirdly, it focuses on one boy in particular who is a little bit nervous about doing this prank. Yeah. And that seemed to be an important plot point. Really isn't. No. In fact, he's the boy who we end up finding out is related to the main plot is one that you completely gloss over almost, which was strange. Yeah. But basically, they want to pull a prank on the caretaker, whose name is Cropsey. To them, he's a mean guy, a drunk, and they don't like him. So their plan is to scare the shit out of him. We don't see what they're going to use for this scare. No. Until the scare actually happens. So they sneak over to Cropsey's cabin. He's asleep, drunk, passed out, drunk, basically. One of the boys goes in. One of the boys goes in. He puts this, he lights this prank item. Yeah. We still don't see what it is. And then he leaves, and they all go out and stop banging on the window to wake Cropsey up. Cropsey up. Cropsey takes a while to come around. Does go on a while as well. Yeah. Takes a while to come around. But when he wakes up, basically, he sees what they've left. And it's pretty horrible. It's either a very, very well done fake skull, or they got a real one and dug it out of a grave with maggots and worms falling out of it, and the eyes have been lit up. Yeah. If you've seen Friday the 13th Part 2, it reminds me of Jason's mother's head, but a bit more rotten, basically, if you know what I'm referring to in that. Cropsey panics, knocks the skull off onto the bed, and sets fire to everything, basically. Yeah. It was quite funny, going back slightly, as the boy was sneaking into the room, he passes what is just like a health and safety official's nightmare. Yeah, gasoline. From gasoline to whiskey bottles and all that. It was like, this isn't going to go well. It doesn't. Cropsey goes up in flames, bursts out of his cabin. It's a full body burn as well. So they've gone for the full thing where it's like top to bottom, the person is on fire. Here's the thing, right? You got to protect this person. So you can't really be too mad that
you can clearly see it's a stuntman.
That you can clearly see it's a stuntman. There's goggles on, their face is completely covered. Yeah. It's not even close to the same guy. And the film spends a little too long focusing on that.
Could that from behind, you wouldn't have known.
Yeah, they could have shot this one a bit better to make it less obvious. He falls down a hill, basically, and lands gets put out by falling into...
the river.
River, yeah. So, the boys are panicked, obviously. Then we just cut. And we cut to a hospital some undetermined time later.
No, it's a week later.
Oh, is it a week later?
Yeah, I think it is 1 week later on the little things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's cool. And we introduced to an orderly and a doctor, and the orderly is trying to wind up the doctor. This new doctor was saying, come check out this guy. He's really badly burned. He's a freak. He looks disgusting.
This is what you're going to kind of deal with.
Yeah. And we gather it's Cropsey they're going to see. And it's a long build to a kind of jump scare where Cropsey reaches out and grabs the orderly's arm and he screams, and you see Cropsey's arm is quite heavily burned. He's had a severe case of it. Then we jump to 5 years later. Yeah. And Cropsey is being released from hospital. Now, we don't actually see him in any way when you see his legs. There's a voiceover doctor saying, look, we did everything we can, try and live a normal life. Sorry that the skin grafts didn't stick. So he's kind of wearing a long black coat and a hat and all that to try and hide his scarred deformities. Yeah. We then quickly establish that he's not going to be a good guy. No. So he walks the streets for a bit, lots of sex references, sex shops and all that, because he come out of hospital. The first one to do is get laid, apparently. And he goes with a prostitute. Yeah. Goes upstairs with her, and she freaks out after seeing what we presume is his face, or at least something, and he ends up stabbing her with a pair of scissors, a sharp pair of scissors. One of many up-close, gory shots. Yeah. It's quite a gory movie. There's no kind of escaping that fact. Seemingly, I don't know, I guess, deciding, well, I've killed one, might as well crack on.
Carry on, go on the spree now.
Yeah, he basically arms himself with garden shears, which is the weapon of choice through the majority of this movie, a pair of really sharp garden shears, and heads off to summer camp. Now, I presumed he'd be going back to Camp Blackfoot, but that has been since closed down and forgotten, and there's another camp called Camp Stonewater. Yeah. Now, one of the flaws in the movie is how we never actually found out what happened to the group of boys. Now, obviously, they got caught. Obviously, he ended up in hospital. Yeah. So, do you know what I mean? There's no, like, we got away with it kind of thing. There was never that element of it.
No, which is obviously why he kind of goes back.
But I don't think that's related, do you? I don't think he even really knows. I don't think he even knows. I think he's just gone back to there's no reference to him knowing. The person who has a flashback at the end is the character who was involved in it. But how would he know that? It's not there. Okay. So if it's not there, we can't do A to B. We're doing A to C here. Yeah. And we needed B and we didn't get it. Yeah. So I don't think that's related to it, truth be told. And the Camp Stonewater is filled with kids. There is a lot of fucking actors and actresses in these scenes. All ages, very busy camp. Looking like there's children as young as 5 or 6. Yeah, up to like, obviously 18, 19, some of these guys. One in particular, 30.
Yeah, as is always the way, yeah.
And then we've got the counsellors and so on. We get a very long kind of baseball scene where we're kind of introduced to a lot of the characters over this one, including some dissexualization of characters, running without a bra on, that kind of stuff. Yeah. The camera focuses on our arses and things like that. The major thing is that one of the camp is Tiger going into the woods and almost getting killed by Cropsey early on. But that's more of a fake out than anything else. We're then really introduced to the character of Alfred, who is played by, let me just get his name up. Alfred is Brian Backer. Now, Alfred is, I don't know, the film tries to act like he's the bullied character.
He doesn't seem, it's not.
We'll get into the whys, but it's implied earlier on that he's having a rough time at camp. He's got no friends. He even says that. He's got no friends, and he keeps running, butting heads with, who's his name? Glazer, who is played by Larry Joshua. Glazer's like the bully, basically. Yeah. This is all given to us after an event, which is Alfred attempting to scare one of the girls called Sally, who happens to be Glazer's, not girlfriend. Sally's played by Carrot Glenn. Yeah. Not girlfriend, but the girl Glazer wants to get with. They're kind of interested in each other. And she's playing, flirting and stuff, and Glazer wants to get with her. So Alfred thinks he's going to scare her while she's having a shower. It's kind of one big long fake out.
Yeah.
And rightfully, the kid gets busted.
Yeah.
He gets busted. He gets busted by the counts as well. Michelle and Todd. Brian Matthews is Todd. And Leah Ares is Michelle. Later, Glazier finds out, bullies him around a bit much, and Todd basically stands up for him.
Yep.
That's when he talks to Alfred about, what's going on with you.
Yeah.
And Alfred, like I said, he's like, oh, I've got no friends. Oh, I don't want to be here and that kind of thing. And it's like, oh, okay, so you're like the one we're supposed to kind of feel sorry for.
Yeah.
Or maybe suspect that you're a little bit kooky as well. No. Movie screws this one up royally. He's very unlikable.
Yeah.
Very unlikable. Glazer at points, all right, he goes over the top just calling him names sometimes, but other times I feel he's justified.
Yeah.
The kid he acts weird, but also it's full of shit. The movie goes, oh yeah, he's got no friends, we should feel sorry for him. And then literally a scene later, we see he doesn't just have friends. He has 3 of them who look after him, stick up for him, and even shoot Glazier with a fucking pellet gun.
Yeah.
Like they're good friends, constantly sticking up for him. To the point where, as well, one of them, who's played by what's his name? Jason Alexander. He constantly stands up to Glazier for Alfred. So it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
you are friends. You've got more than most kids do sometimes. So Alfred, he tries to apologise to Sally and all that. It is suggested that maybe he might like her, and that's why he's doing this. Yeah. But he never go all the way with that at all, really. And it's in a bunk scene that we kind of get our first glimpse of what Cropsey's face might look like, where Alfred sees him at the window and freaks out, but of course no one believes him. Yeah. So one of the interesting things we thought was like, man, there's so much casting here. Like the moment a body starts turning up, so we get lots of fake outs in between, where one character goes off for a bit, and then it looks like it's Cropsey coming in the room, but it's not. It's Todd and stuff like that. Yeah. All standard slasher shit. And it's kind of like, wow, how's this going to work? But they do it quite cleverly. They separate and take our main cast, which is actually all the older kids, on a canoe trip led by Todd and Michelle. It's a canoe trip down to the Devil's Creek. Yeah. Which also is because camp's about to finish. So it separates us away from all the other cast.
Yeah, because you panic and it will be quite quickly, the police would come quite quickly.
Quite quick, absolutely.
So you need to kind of separate them physically and away from everyone else as well. So, yeah.
And it's also, so by now we've kind of got quite established these characters, particularly a lot of them same faces. There are a lot of annoying scenes though. The canoe trip's one part, and later the raft and all that, where characters are just constantly talking over each other. Now I know it's the idea that kids would do that and young kids would be constantly chattering. It's fucking infuriating though. It's really hard to listen to. Just that's and that can last over a minute sometimes. Yeah. And later you'll see that will be happening, yet characters' mouths are not moving at all.
Yeah, I remember that bit,
Yeah, that was quite whoa, that's poorly done. While sitting around camping and so on, Todd tells them the legend of Cropsey. Now, on reflection, what we know by the end of the movie, that he is one of the kids who was involved with the prank that set Cropsey on fire. This is all the more disturbing. So you've turned that urban legend, even though you know it's true to all the events are true, because you were directly involved.
So you kind of...
that's actually
not good on him, does it?
Yeah, that's not a great character plot point when you get to the end of the movie. But no, at this point, I must say, we're about 3/4 away from the movie, and none of the main cast have been killed, really. But we do get someone there as one of the camp counselors, Eddie and Karen. One of Skinny Dip. He gets a bit aggressive. He gets very aggressive when she won't put out. You get plenty of nudity here, full frontal women shit if that's your jam. She runs off, leaves them in the lake, and her clothes have been taken, presumably by Cropsey. She follows the trail and ends up meeting her end, basically. He slashes her throat with some shears. All the deaths are quite violent and gory. Next morning, Michelle finds they wake up Eddie. And she's gone to find out where Karen has gone. He doesn't know. He says, look, we thought she went off. I came back. I figured she was back. And that was the end of it. Fair enough. They also then find out the canoes are all gone. The canoes have just gone. So I do question the logic of this part. This is where you said, oh, some plot points and all that. This is work. This is one that doesn't for me. Rather than start trekking because, hey, it's quite bushy and far and stuff like that, they decide to make a raft and send just a small group off on this raft. Yeah. Now, this raft is fucking excellent.
Yeah.
It is excellent. Lost, eat your heart out, that kind of shit.
Yeah. You could argue if you're a camp leader, do you know how long he's done all this kind of stuff for?
All right, fair enough. They built... Right, that's about the raft, but why aren't you walking?
Did they say how long it was?
He just said it's miles and miles of, thick forest.
But if you can make a raft, why not just kind of go...
I just don't agree with it.
I think like they try to look for the canoes. The most likely point is maybe they got untied and they floated away. Floated down the river. I think it was better decision than traipsing through the woods. Direct.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then while on the raft, this is where you get so much chatter. It's quite annoying. It's really quite annoying. It starts to make you dislike several characters. Although on this craft, actually there are a few main characters. Tell a lie, there are a few. They actually see a canoe and they paddle to the canoe and it's a long build towards it. And we actually thought, oh, Karen, the dead body of Karen will be in there. Yeah. It's not. It's Cropsey. He jumps out and you get a quite intense, at least 20 to 30 seconds long murder of everybody. Everybody gets stabbed in some way and you see it, be it the throat, fingers cut off.
So I thought it was, I can see, like, when you say looking at things where it would got...
I could see that being cut down, Like, that makes sense, that scene can be cut down. It is quite intense.
Like a quick edit, just cutting back to his shears, but not to the up close.
Bit of splash of blood here and there, but it is quite intense. It's very cool. So they're obviously all dead now, so we know help's not coming. We then go back to the remaining cast who are just waiting out, basically. Yeah. We then get some unfortunate scene with Glazer, who finally gets to have sex with Sally, but basically
can't do the job.
Well, no, he can do the job. It's just too quick.
Yeah.
It's awkward as fuck. I cringed at this, felt bad for the dude, and she was not nice about it.
Yeah, she was. Is that it? Great.
But she seems to have a change of heart, and she's like, no, let's stay here. Stay here. And he's like, all right, cool. Let me go back to the camp, sneak back, get some matches, and we'll build a fire. Yeah. She's dead as soon as he said that. Yeah. It was like, oh. So off he goes. This is another one of the scenes. So where were we before we were saying about Alfred? It also noted that he just drops off the radar. Like, he's there, but he's not there.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you're not really the main character. Why are we even bothering doing that stuff at the start then?
Yeah. Yeah.
He wakes up and sees Glazer stealing the matches and walking off. So, because he's totally normal, he follows him. I was doing my nut at this stage.
Yeah, because
why are you following him for?
There's not really explained either. There's no kind of...
Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why are you following? There's no need to follow him.
It just comes across creepy and he watches them.
And particularly when he then gets there. So, in between that, we've seen Crosby has attacked and killed Sally.
Yeah.
We don't see her die. She's the one death, I think, we don't see on screen. It cuts away.
Oh.
We don't see her.
Did.
No, we don't. I think that was because, obviously, had we seen her, she died. Then when it came to the discovery...
Oh, it wouldn't be as impactful.
Via Glazer, it wouldn't work as well.
Yeah.
So Glazer gets back. He thinks she's playing like coy or falling asleep. Or like Alfred is literally standing in a tree watching.
Yeah.
At this stage, bear in mind, Alfred doesn't know anything now except for the fact that, they've probably been having sex. And he's still standing there staring, watching. I was like, Glazer should kick his ass. Yeah. This is the sort of things you do get your ass kicked for.
Yeah.
You are being a weirdo. Doesn't matter. Glazer, as he pulls back what is supposed to be the reveal of Sally having been killed, again, you never see what actually killed her because Cropsey is basically hidden inside it and then stabs Glazer through the throat, is it? Yeah, it's through the throat, isn't it? Through the neck, like enough that pins him to the tree. Alfred sees that, runs off, wakes up Todd, who of course doesn't believe him at first. Todd then comes back with Alfred, finds the body and then gets attacked by Cropsey, who only manages to sort of slash him in the head, knocks him out, and then chases after Alfred. So basically, the film drops into two segments here. We've basically got Alfred, no, more than that. So we've got Alfred running through the woods, being chased by Cropsey, although who always seems to be one step ahead of him.
Yeah.
Which was weird as well.
Yeah, because you kind of like, how would you know? Yeah.
And then we've got Todd when he wakes up following them, trying to find Alfred. And then we've got Michelle, who the raft comes back and they discover all the dead bodies on it. Panic ensues. And basically they all get back on the raft and take it back towards camp to call the police. They actually get back to camp later in the movie, where Todd decides to stay and obviously look for Alfred.
Yeah.
So they're back at the camp. They call the police. And then her and the owner of the camp, I guess the person in charge,
Overall, yeah.
head back in a speedboat to go and get Todd. Meanwhile, Alfred has come across what is a ruin, basically. Yeah. Part mine, part ruin, that kind of thing. Because he goes inside and there's mine carts and stuff like that. Really long, this sequence. Overly long, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest part of the movie to kind of watch.
Yeah.
As we get constant cat and mouse stuff. First between Alfred and Cropsey. And then eventually Cropsey gets Alfred. And for whatever reason doesn't kill him, which is infuriating.
Yeah.
It's that whole final girl thing. He uses the shears to kind of pin his arm in place.
To the wall, yeah.
And that's it. We then get more cat and mouse stuff as Todd arrives and Cropsey. We get this really long sequence where Cropsey lights a flamethrower. And it's a cool shot where he's kind of moving in between the woods and you kind of getting a shot of his disfigured face. And this causes Todd to kind of flash back and, I guess, remember what he actually did, which is why I say it's so confusing about whether or not Cropsey knows.
Yeah.
He might, but I'm saying, like I said, you're going to go, I think he does. But I'm saying it could be either or. Because there's nothing, no, but it could be.
But it's quite a specific place to go back to a camp.
But why that camp?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Could
suppose.
be any camp.
Yeah.
It's, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's missing that element that suggested Cropsey knew.
No, yeah.
Because as well, Cropsey then just turns the flamethrower off.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's it. It's not actually used again. They don't fight. Alfred manages to free himself, and basically that's really it. Cropsey doesn't have much of a way of fight in him. He's not like a super villain, supernatural. And basically he gets pinned by the own shears. He gets stabbed in the back with shears by Alfred. And then to finish him off, Todd smashes an axe into his head.
Yeah.
And while that's enough, Alfred, little psychopath, then sets him on fire using the flamethrower. I guess that's why it was introduced.
Yeah,
just for the final sequence. Yeah. It's all shot really, really well. It looks good. It does. I'm not complaining about that. The shears in the back, the axe to the head, the full body fire kind of thing. It all looks really, really good. And that's basically it for that side of the story. The police arrive and that's kind of it. And then we cut to some time later as another campfire. Another camp leader is telling the tale of Cropsey to a load of other teenagers.
Yeah, and that's how it ends.
And that is how it ends. I think, like, if it wasn't for an overly drawn-out ending, an overly long ending, and points that, not that they don't make sense, I know I keep coming back to it, because it's easy when you go, well, yeah, of course Cropsey needs. He probably came back to the camp because he wanted to get revenge on Todd. How? When?
Yeah. At least I say, like, that camp has been there for ages, wasn't it? They built that camp on the same site as the old one. He knew where he was going. It's a bit...
Yeah, like, that's the other thing. Like, wouldn't it have made more sense? This is another puzzling thing as well. We find out that Camp Blackfoot has been abandoned. That's said. And we thought when Alfred gets to this abandoned place that presumably...
That was the camp.
That was the camp. It's not.
No.
Why would you not have the movie end at the abandoned camp then? And then we could have it end there.
Yeah, which made more sense.
Would have made way more sense, right? The other thing to note, as well, if Todd generally didn't remember it, let's say he didn't remember the event, he was traumatized by it, wouldn't even telling the story, you know, he tells the story of Cropsey.
Yeah.
That's not fucking traumatized.
No.
That's literally, I've never heard this in my life kind of situation. Yeah. Just to then have a flashback when it comes to the flames.
Of him doing it, yeah, it's a bit weird.
There's a lot of, that's the problem. It needed, I don't know, an extra minute or two here, or an extra scene here and there, just to tie it all in. We could have fucking cut 5 minutes out from the last sequence of Cat and Mouse games and used that elsewhere to either explain, have Cropsey looking at fucking a newspaper about camp things or and all that, an explanation of why he went there.
Yeah.
An explanation, maybe even as a headline in a newspaper or in a magazine that says, oh, camp counsellor, new camp counsellor for Camp Stone
Yeah, or like
is the kid who was involved in the incident 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and then he screws it up. Like, and that's why we know, okay,
Yeah, that makes more sense. Some sort of link.
Yeah, or even have Todd, like, after maybe telling the story of Croxby, talking to Michelle, who's his girlfriend, and saying, look, you know, I never told you this, but that was true. I was, like, part of it was true, and I was involved in it. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of, too many things missing to make the plot, like, a standout plot.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's just a slasher flick.
Yeah.
A slasher flick with some great gory scenes. One of the better ones we've covered, I think.
Definitely. So the production of it was just more enjoyable to watch, because sometimes with the other ones, the sort of the cheapness of it just really sometimes distracts. Like the dubbing, and sometimes it's just sometimes hard to watch, as well as being really cheesy. This one was cheesy, but it was more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I do think so. It's not played for laughs. It's a serious movie. But I can understand why it's garnered a bit of a cult following. I do think this is one of those that chances are, like me, unless you're doing a video, like trying to watch the Nasties, whatever, this one would just be something you ignore. It's called The Burning. It's got a masked killer with shears on the front cover, and it's, kids, and its synopsis is, kids at a summer camp get off by a killer.
Yeah.
Whoa, hold me back, guys.
There's nothing new about that. But yeah,
and there isn't nothing new about it. It's very, very important. But for the quality of acting, and I do think it's got some top-notch acting all across the board, well shot, very nice to look at, great effects and gore. A villain that is cool. I think it's cool as well. Although we should also note that the lack of them showing us cruel Cropsey made it harder to kind of go, he's such an evil guy.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? But overall, I think it's certainly one well worth checking out.
Definitely.
You are gonna, like I said, you're gonna watch it and go, oh my god, how many? It's not many movies would rip parts off of it, but it itself was ripping off Friday the 13th. Yeah, let's not beat around the bush in regards to that. But I think it's good enough on its own to watch.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There you go. The Burning, 1981. Let's know what you think of it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?